Mithras, do you have a moment?
My dear, I have all of eternity.
Who are you exactly?
I am Mithras, immortal and unique.
Right. So why aren't you out there hanging out with your Deadwalker friends?
First of all, I don't have any pals. I'm a little too old for that. Secondly, I find your implication that I'm associated with them most unpleasant. I have nothing in common with those dead things. I've been around for over 6,000 years, and I'm still very much alive, thank you. I admit this body is looking a little worn.
6,000 years old. Hey, you don't look a day over 250.
You flatterer. I did, however, lose a toe this morning. Nonetheless, these Deadwalkers are simply corpses that are animated by magic. Whereas I am an immortal spirit who changes bodies when they wear out. There's absolutely no similarity.
That's not so dumb. It's what allows you to go on having an effect on the world, I guess.
Exactly. I give these bodies extra life that they would not have had if they'd stayed dead. Though, of course, these days, it's unlikely they would stay dead for very long.
I want to ask you a couple of questions. Why did you come to Carolthas?
Why not? There's one thing you should know about eternity. It can be rather dull. So I do my very best to be in the right place at the right time. The place where it's the most fun.
Fun? You think this is fun?
Well, distracting then, if you prefer. What do you expect? I'm just so bored. The End of the World is a show I wouldn't want to miss.
What do you know about the Deadwalkers?
Apart from the fact that they're an incongruous mass of corpses with appalling bad taste that are animated through the use of magic, nothing. I can tell you that the power necessary for their creation, and to keep them working, is far beyond the magical abilities of any of your contemporaries. And since it's obvious they're incapable of any decision-making or strategy, they are clearly being controlled from a distance. All of which suggests the Ice Lords who are controlling these things are rather powerful. Something, I grant you, quite difficult to believe when one saw them start out at the same pitiful level of incompetence as their brothers, the Red Scribes.
In 6,000 years, have you ever seen a situation as desperate as this one?
Honestly? Well, no. You are, as you might put it, fucked. Or at least the mortals seem to be. But you carry something within you that may modify things somewhat. And it is this seemingly insignificant detail, this flap of a butterfly's wing, which may eventually change the apparently manifest destiny of the world as you know it. This demon, as you call it, has never before walked the earth. Neither he, neither it, nor any other of its kind. If they had, I would know of it, believe me. Consequently, and in spite of the evident futility of such a sentiment, there may be grounds for you to feel a slight glimmer of hope. That is, of course, if it is your desire to avert disaster.
Well, that's comforting. What happened to the Elven King?
I think he was simply lacking in strength of will and determination. They transformed him into an arch-lich. It's a particularly delicate and extremely dangerous magical process that could only be performed by an Ice Lord. It can only be performed on an elf, and then only one who is desperate to live.
How so?
Elves have many flaws, but most of them do have a very profound sense of duty. If an elf believes he is going to be tortured to make him reveal the secrets of his people, for example, he can literally will himself to die. It would seem that this king was desperate to continue living at any price, rather than dying with honor. That is what allowed them to turn him into an arch-lich.
Do you have any idea about what I am becoming?
In all my long lives, I've never seen your like. Even the term demon seems to be designed to cause confusion. I have seen real demons when I lived as a war drum player amongst the dwarves.
Dwarves are just legend. You're yanking my chain.
It would be churlish to mock someone when it is so easy. Thus the dwarves did exist, and I was once one of them. They used to use these little creatures, barely the size of toddlers, in their enormous forges. They were little red creatures with tiny horns and a wicked air about them. You see, they were able to survive in the flames. The dwarves called them demons. You look a little like one of them, only much bigger. And you have an even more pronounced affinity with fire. I'm reserving judgment about the wicked attitude. I believe this affinity with flames is no coincidence. You are clearly a response, a weapon, and your purpose is to face the Ice Lords. It is entirely possible that you are the fruit of an attempt to rebalance the forces of nature. Alas, I have no idea which entity is behind all of this.
How are things with Sybil?
What a charming young girl. Her hunger for knowledge reminds me of myself in the distant past, when I was young and still living in my first body. I imagine that if I still felt any physical desires, I would happily give her a good few hours of one-on-one experimental physical training. And it seems to me that she's rather more interested in getting your attention. At any rate, she is by far the most interesting red scribe I've met in the past 300 years. Though I fear that may not be much of a compliment, given their legendary incompetence.
I want to ask you a couple of questions. Talk to you later.
Greetings, mercenary. What can I do for you?
I'll be going now.
A good day to you, mercenary.
What can you tell me about Mathras?
He is a most unusual being. Do you realize he has been alive for over 6,000 years?
Don't you get the impression that he's just talking bullshit?
Even though at first sight, such a long existence sounds impossible, he has knowledge of history that makes it very difficult for us to doubt his word. And his appearance speaks for itself, if I may be so bold.
It's true that he does look a bit ripe.
As far as I understand it, he regularly changes his bodies. As soon as the one he's taken starts wearing out, he procures a new frame? What is really fascinating is that he is the kind of undead that was previously unheard of. We had no idea there was a being able to transfer their soul from one body to another in order to keep living. Remember that his knowledge could very well turn our vision of mortality upside down. And of course he might provide unhoped-for help against the lords of the frozen shadows.
What did I tell you? Once they've recovered from the shock of my somewhat shriveled appearance, everybody thinks I'm highly useful.
He could really help us out. If we could only be sure he wasn't working for the enemy.
You insult me yet again. Joining forces with a band of apprentice sorcerers with a thirst for power would be unworthy of my condition. And didn't I already tell you how to enter the city?
Some basic information that got you into our camp. That seems pretty clever to me.
Really? What would be in it for me? Not that the company of these scribes is unpleasant, but I doubt that our simple little discussions will affect the course of the war.
I can confirm that he hasn't ever been alone. But you look a bit preoccupied with something. Am I right?
The commander says there's a traitor in the camp, and our new friend is obviously a prime suspect. What if he can read minds?
Well, I think that the commander is wrong. We've spoken for a long time with Mathras, and I don't believe for a second that he's got anything to do with your problem. It's obviously very difficult to detect telepathic communication, but as far as I can see, there's nothing to indicate he's capable of it.
Very well. I'll just have to trust you. I'll be going now.
They attacked the wrong person. How dare they condemn our king to such a macabre fate? My father. It's time for us to repay the Deadwalkers in kind. I want to see them destroyed, so not a single one of those dead ever dare set foot in our streets again. We're going to launch a massive assault to take back our city. It is time to turn the tide of this war. Vulcan, we will need you and your extraordinary abilities. We have to send a small group to open the city gates. I'm counting on you. I know that you can be stealthy and incredibly effective. A few soldiers will be going with you. This is our best chance. Black Frost doesn't seem to be here anymore, and most of his forces went with him. But before we launch the assault, we need to strengthen our army. I've been told there are prisoners in the city. If we free those soldiers, we can add them to our ranks. We're also going to need to get our equipment in as good shape as possible. We're fortunate that our smith has survived. Let us hope he'll be able to provide us with everything we need. But it's better to make sure.
Thou knowest that Black Frost's palace will take us to the world heart. Yet still thou dost waste thy time in vain battles. Thy stupidity knows no bounds.
Vulcan, I need your help.
What, sorting books? Observing swamp critters? You don't think I have better stuff to do right now?
That's not fair. I'm not stupid. I understand that what is most important now is the fight, and our soldiers...
The Freeborn Blades will do just fine. Don't you worry about that.
Not them, the other human soldiers.
What's wrong?
I'm not sure we can count on them. They've already lost the war. They're only staying here because the elves are protecting them. But they've got no fight left in them. They have to believe they can win. They have to fight alongside the elves and the Freeborn Blades. I've tried talking with them, but they treat me like a child. Maybe they would listen if you would talk to them.
Me? Most regular soldiers don't have time for mercenaries.
They just need to get their spirit back, boost their morale. I'm sure you could find some words to help them.